Uh, Welcome everybody to our September meeting. I'm glad you could all make it. I'm sure there will be, I know some other people probably jumping on. We
Hold on,
have,
John. Hey, Debbie,
Uh-huh.
can you mute everybody mute yourselves so
Oh,
that we
yeah.
don't hear the back while John's trying to talk?
yeah,
And then Bruce, thank you.
sorry, I should have muted people. My apologies. I normally hit the mute button. Um, we will have a prospective actual new member. He's not here yet, but Brad Baker is looking to possibly join our assembly. So next month we'll probably do a reading. I'll have an application for him. He was still getting off of work, so he might be a few minutes late. So we have at least a prospective new member in this time, which is good. Glad to see all of you. I hope you are all doing well. As Kim noted, for good and welfare, Jim passed away on the 7th. And we will be doing, a broken wand for that at some point. Additionally, not somebody that I know, but Big Jim James Wilson. For those older members who may know him, he's not doing particularly well. His wife emailed me to say that he is currently on hospice, and they expect that he will not be around too much longer. So if that's somebody you know or would like to speak
Big
to,
Jim Wilson, yeah.
yeah. So he's not doing super great. So I don't have any other good and welfare. Kim is obviously doing great, as you can see. She's recovering quite nicely over there. And does anybody else have any good or welfare that they'd like to throw out there?
I was going to ask Kim how Randy's doing.
He's doing much better. Yeah. With that night I had to leave the lecture early. He was having an allergic reaction to his antibiotics they'd given him for his infection. And so I got him to the hospital just before he went into anaphylactic shock, which was good. But yeah, his infection's gone. He's doing much better. He's back to work. I'm finally healing from my my gallbladder surgery, so I'm feeling much better finally and feeling more human. And my dad is doing, he's still plugging along.
Excellent. That's good.
Well, moving on to the next portion of business. As you see, we put the trophy winners in the wand. And I am working on getting all of the certificates printed for those over the next day or two. And then Kim and I are going to get those trophies out to people hopefully within the next month. So you'll be able to hang on to your trophy for a little while. In addition, you will all be kind of some of the first people to see this, but this is the new Ed Thomas Memorial Trophy that we had created. If you can see this here, I'm going to actually bring this down a little bit so that the light's not glaring. This is one of Ed's actual bow ties we secured from Sam National. And so we have it encased in the acrylic here. And he's not here, but Michael Mesmer is the first winner of this award. I was hoping to show it to him here, but he is not present. He won, however, just so we're all on the same page, him, Mark Ray, and I believe Ernest you guys were all neck and neck for the points on this particularly trophy. The point difference between the three of you was like 3/10 or 6/10. I put the exact amount in the wand, but it was very close. It was literally like one extra vote for a 4 instead of a 5. So there was fierce competition for this trophy, and I hope we can continue that because that was I really enjoyed seeing all of your online performances.
Hey, John?
Yes.
Was it neck and neck?
It was.
Go back on mute.
Sorry.
Back on mute. Sorry.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
Bow tie jokes. There you go. So I'll be presenting that to Mesmer.
At least it wasn't a tie.
Right. So as you can see, that's how our club works. So thank you all for joining. Like I said, we will have a prospective new member. Hopefully we'll get to introduce him next month. And with that, I'm going to also welcome some of our first attending somewhat guests. As you can all see, we have the amazing Howard Hamburg here tonight joining us for this lecture.
Hey,
Hey, Howard.
I know Howard infrequently
Hey, Howard.
attends because he has to travel and do so many other things. So we're glad to have Howard.
Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you.
Now, if you guys want, Howard has set it up so Raphael Benatar can lecture for us. If you guys, you can think about that, you wonderful
good.
board members, you.
David Yee asked what that award was for. David, we actually did an online competition for our trophies, and we specifically did an online competition at the start of COVID where we actually competed for that specific trophy, all online performances. It was a special trophy that we had made in honor of Ed, and also to gauge some interest and get people to to perform online. Also fitting, while I enjoyed all the acts, Michael Mesmer won with an actual picture of Ed as his act. So fitting that Michael won with that. No problem, David. You're good. So with that, I am going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Bruce Kalver, who's to the left of me here. And magic! Look at that, he just appeared. So we're gonna go ahead and make Bruce spotlighted here, and we're gonna turn it on over to him.
Spotlighted you. Okay. Well, hello everyone.
Hello.
It's 11:17 p.m. here in Rhode Island, 46 degrees. And I always said I could do this lecture in my sleep, and tonight I'm going to prove it. So there you go. I just want to see if you have seen my SAM lecture before. Have any of you seen it before? A few of you have. Okay. So you're going to see some stuff that was in that lecture also, if you don't mind. Okay. You'll get a second chance to see it. Jeremy Williams is there, but who's with Jeremy?
His son, Taylor.
Tyler.
Yeah, there's
I
no
was
family
Tyler, sorry,
resemblance
Tyler.
whatsoever there. That's why I
Yeah.
asked. All right, great. Nice to see you all. So, oh, there it is. There's a phone call.
Of
Who's
course.
Okay. So I'm going to start this, and if you have any questions, just raise your hand or put it in the chat, and I'll eventually get to the chat and see it from there. Just a show of hands, because I don't know what you want me to, what I want to do tonight, because I have, lots of stuff here. How many of you have my growing and shrinking head spiral? Do any of you have that? All right, great. Okay, so I can talk a little bit about that. All right, so for the next 4.5 hours, we're going to go, no, we're not. We're not going to do that at all. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this will work for you. And somebody will be there. Look at that. It looks just like me. All right. Yeah. Is that good? Can you all see now?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So if you don't know, I was the past president of the Society of American Magicians from 2008 to 2009. And humbling and amazing experience for me. And somebody's mic is on.
Yeah, I'm going down I'm muting everyone right now. So.
Are you really? Don't mute me.
Yeah,
Okay,
not
that'll
you.
be
You're still unmuted. Everyone else is muted. Go right ahead.
So I do a column called Tech Tricks. It's almost 10 years now of doing tech tricks. What's amazing about my column is after about 6 months, whatever I talked about is some of it's obsolete. So it's really a current article. So when I talk about something, my articles are not review columns. They're recommendation columns because I only have so much space. So if you see something written up in my column, it's because I'm recommending it. So I want to talk about some of the tech stuff that we've done here. And let's start with this. This is really an amazing thing that's happened. It was a 10-year project for the SAM. The year after I became president, we kind of talked about it. And we have reached a point where we have placed every MUM magazine is now online for you to look at. Every single MUM, with a few exceptions, from volume 1, number 1 to the current issue, is now available for you to read digitally online. It's an amazing, amazing feat. I'll show you how you can get to them. If I go to the SAM website, which is right here, so I'll make sure I can get out of there, okay. And if I go to MUM Magazine, you'll see that the current issues are up here. But if you go to the bottom, you'll see Classic MUM, which is here. And these, if I move down, are every volume, volume 1, volume 2, all the way up through the Sphinx magazine into the 50s and 60s, 70s, the Leslie Guest years, the David Goodsell years, the John Mooring years, the Michael Close years, all the way through. So just for fun, I just want to show you, if you go to volume 1, 10-year project to put these all up. So this is the very first MUM magazine, the very first one, October 1911, volume 1, number 1. It's 4 pages long. That's what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I think is very funny is the very first issue, first article, Magic is Dead. See it right there? Isn't that great? Isn't that great? They're arguing about the same thing, that they had Magic is Dead. $5 to name the magazine. They decided to keep it MUM, but it's fascinating what's on here. It's really, you can zoom in and read it. We really worked hard on this, scanning every single issue. Here they are. You just go right through them. Pretty amazing, don't you think? So every MUM magazine is here. Now, not only, you can print it out, whatever pages you want. You can translate it to any language that you want, and it'll reproduce it. There's a lot of great stuff right there. So if you want to look, I don't know how I got out of there to there, but if you want to look at every issue of MUM magazine, it's online. Now, a project that we thought was going to take a year and a half to do is done, and one of the volunteers, and that is indexing every MUM magazine. So the indexes are right here now, and you can search for whatever you want in here, and you can find it. I know Howard's going to use this. And what's great about it is Debbie Sens, who's right there in the audience, was one of our indexers. She worked very hard. We had about 15 indexers, and we thought it would take a year and a half. They finished it. We started on Groundhog Day this year, February 2nd, and we finished on July 2nd. Thanks to the pandemic, we didn't have to, everybody was stuck at home, so they did it. So that's every issue of MUM. One of the fun things you can do is if you remember when you were first written up in MUM, you can look that up. And I did that. I looked to see where my first issue was. And here it is, yada, yada, yada. But the last line is great. This boy will be working conventions before long. It took me a while, but I was, how old was I? 12 years old when this came out. 12 years old, 1968, 67, 68. But it was fun to read that again. So if you ever want to look up yourself in MUM, you can do that now. Isn't that fantastic? So that's that. I'm going to ask you now, do any of you do the trick where you put the silk through your phone? Is that something that you've done? I'm going to go back to my screen. Let's see if I can do that. If I stop sharing, it's back to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is, see if I can get out of here to do that. And back to me. Okay. So do any of you do the silk through phone trick?
I have done
No,
it.
yes, no, yes, no. I wasn't going to do the trick. I was just going to tell you a little hint about it. But let me see if I can set up the trick to show you, okay? just a quick one so you can see how great this is. They sell this in magic shops, and you can find it in your local shop, I'm sure. What's your local shop? The Apple?
Yeah, the Magic Apple.
Magic Apple?
Burbank.
Right. So I have, I don't know that I can do it with my case on, but I'm going to try. This is the effect that you take a scarf and you pass it through your phone like that. You see that? Okay. So I didn't invent the trick. It is a very old trick. We used to do it with, Howard might remember, we used to do it with a deck of cards, and we'd have a scarf go through the deck of cards. The gimmick that they give you is awful, awful. But buy the trick. It's $5, $10. Buy the trick, and then here's the right gimmick to use. And this gimmick, when you buy your deck of cards at Target, you're all smiling now. When you buy your cards at Target, there's this little hanging tag, this clear tag that's on the deck. Don't throw that tag away. That's your best gimmick for this trick. So if you push this through the hole, I'm not going to go through the whole trick because it's not my trick, but the gimmick is what you want to deal with. So now if I have the phone here, and this gimmick is, let's see, on top of your phone here, you're not going to see that gimmick, right? And you're just going to pull it through, so it's going to look like it's going right through the phone. Pretty cool. Don't give me credit for the trick. Give me credit for coming up with
That's cheating.
not throwing this away. Pretty good, right? Okay, let's go back to the screen here. Share the screen, desktop one. Oh, so much text stuff. So that's the deal there. The Silk Through Phone, you can use one of these and do it. Now, if you really want to do this, you can go on Amazon and buy these tags and use them right from there. You're going to have to rub off the double stick tape that's on them, but that is a much better gimmick than the one that they give you with the trick. So I just wanted to let you know about that. Okay. Are any of you streaming? Are you doing magic shows online? If you are doing magic shows online, and I've done a few, and I've seen a few really good ones. You've got some great ones in California. There's some great ones in New York. There's a great one in Chicago. There are more terrible ones than there are great ones. And here's the problem. The problem is that for years, we have touted the fact that every trick we do involves audience participation and your friends will be helping. Well, the problem is we can't do that anymore. We can't do that audience participation, especially if you're online, but you can. There are ways to do it. But what I want to discuss here, and you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
What I want to discuss here is just a few rules to help you along here. So the first thing is take down names. And what this means is when, if you're doing a magic show, a live show, and you're doing it on Facebook Live, you can't see the audience. You can't see them at all. You're just looking at a blank screen. Using Zoom is much better because, you know, I can see you guys, and there is a give and take between the two of us. But if you're doing it on Facebook Live or you're doing it on one of the WebExes where you can't see the audience, find out who's going to be in the audience and take down their names so that while you're doing a trick, you can refer to the names, you know, and say, okay, now the card that was selected was the Ace of Hearts. So we're going to take that Ace of Hearts. Joe, remember the Ace of Hearts, okay, Joe? The fact that you're mentioning their names throughout really makes them feel like they're part of the show. Otherwise, they're just totally separated. Extreme social distancing. I did a kids show for the employees at Apple because their kids were bored during the pandemic. And I got all the kids' names. So while I'm doing the show, I'm going, Joey, stop hitting your sister. You know, Mary, where do you think the rabbit is? You know, and they feel like they're a part of it. Does it make sense to you? Okay. The second thing is, don't be a techie. If you don't know how to use this tech stuff, don't do it yourself. You can have somebody else run your show like we're doing tonight from somewhere else. So find a techie like our friend tonight, and let him run the show. Let him figure out all the stuff. In my column, I talked about a few different programs that allow you to go from camera to camera and do that kind of stuff. But if you're not a techie, don't be a techie. You got to deal with the magic show itself. Don't deal with that. If you can see the audience like I can tonight, all the better. I did a lecture for the SAM, for the National. They were doing the free lectures. And I was the first one that said, listen, can we do, on the Zoom meeting, how many people can we put in? They said 100. I said, well, let's put 100 people in besides showing it on our webpage, because that way I'll have an audience of people to work with. And ever since I did that, every lecturer after that said, what a great idea. Let's bring in people so they're like sitting in the front rows for us so we can have that interaction. It's the interaction that's important. Okay, here's a quick tip for you. Like tonight, although I didn't set it up, like tonight, if I was doing a close-up routine and I wanted a second camera to work with, just plug in an old iPhone or an iPad and sign into the Zoom meeting, and one of those squares can be your close-up camera. It doesn't cost anything to do that, right? And you can set up that camera down on your close-up pad or whatever, so that if somebody wants to see what's going on close up, they can just look up at the square. You could highlight that square. And so there's no special trickery involved at all. It's just one of the things that are up there. That's really handy for a lot of things. The other thing is, when you're performing, do not put the comments page up. You do not want to look at that while you're performing. It's the most distracting thing in the world. In fact, I don't have it up right now, and I'm relying on our host that if there is a question, he's going to jump in and tell me that there's a question on the comments. But I'm not going to look at those, because if I look at those, I'm not looking at you. I'm not focusing on you. So those are some of the things. Now, somebody asked me today about this. This is called the Amada Home Furnishings light. And that light, you see, it's a clamp. I'm using that light right now. In fact, I'll shut the light off so you see the difference. Here it is without the light. Here it is with the light. Big difference, right?
Can't see you because you got your screen.
Well, I think it looks great from here. So I'll switch it to show you, and then I'll go back. Hold on a second. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So here it is without the light. Here it is with the light. Big difference.
Is
It's just
that like doing a green screen when you set it up?
Well, I have a green screen behind me. You may not think so, but that's not my real curtain.
Just thought I'd ask.
Okay, yeah, there is a screen behind me. But this, with the light, without the light, big difference, right? And this light is like $29 maybe, might be $20. It's available right on Amazon.
$33.59.
How much is it?
$33.59
Okay, they went up a little bit.
on
because
Prime.
it's popular, but not too bad, right? So I'm going to bring it back up again to show you. Here we go. And there it is again. You can all see that now. Yes. Okay. So
Yes.
those are the let me bring it up again so you can see. This light is about the size of a bagel. That's how small it is. Okay. The circle is about the size of a bagel or a donut, one of those donuts. And there's an extra thing there so you can add a second camera or use your phone, you know, to zoom it, to do the stuff. This is the best light I've ever found. It has different shades, and you can figure out the brightness and so forth to work with. You can get really bright. You can turn it more white, which I don't like. I prefer that. And let's bring it down a little bit. And there you go. Pretty nice. But that's it. By the way, I have lecture notes. They're absolutely free free lecture notes, and you'll get them at the end of the thing. I'll tell you how to get them. All this information is in there, so you can go from there. Any questions on this? Pretty basic. Even for Zoom family meetings, that light is great. And it's LED. It's not hot. It's not killing me like it normally would. Okay. Okay. So now I want to talk about this. And this to me is a great thing to keep in your arsenal. Have you ever seen these type of matrix where people circle a number and then cross off the rows, and then circle another number and cross off the rows, so they end up with, and you can force a number by doing that. My grandfather, who, if you saw my initial lecture on, I did the Samuel Wolf Code, which was a two-person code act, which people just loved. My grandfather was a math whiz, and he taught me this many years ago. He did not invent this matrix. I'm going to teach you how to make a matrix for any number you want, okay, that you can force. And then I'll show you how you can use it. But I think he read this in a Scientific American in the 60s. And it was probably one of the writers in there that came up with this. So I'm going to teach you how to make this matrix. And if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, I'll give you a chance to try in a little while. So get a pencil and paper, and let me show you what this is. So this matrix, we're going to force the number 75. Let's say I have a trick and I have to force the number 75, okay? So I have this grid, this 5 by 5 grid. It could be any size you want, 5 by 5, 6 by 6, 7 by 7, 10 by 10. The more numbers you have, the higher numbers you can use. But I'm going to do the target of 75. Now, since this is a 5 by 5 grid, we're going to need 10 numbers that add up to 75. All right, stay with me. This is not complicated. You'll see in a minute. So I've taken the time ahead of time to come up with 10 numbers that equal 75. Okay? So when you do this, this is going to be the hardest part of the whole thing of doing those 10 numbers. Because you're going to start with a few numbers, and then you're going to realize you've run out of numbers, so you're going to have to change the 1 to a 2. You're going to have to change the 10 to a 9, so that you have a wide variety of numbers. You're all with me? Okay. So once you have these 10 numbers that add up to 75, you'll notice my 5 by 5 grid also has these little planters on the side. My grandfather called them planters. All right? And we're going to seed these planters. There's a 5 planter here and a 5 planter there. And we're just going to take these numbers and we're going to put them in the planters. They can be in any order you want, as long as they're those 10 numbers. But I kind of tend to do it in order. Is everybody with me? Okay. So now we've taken the 10 numbers that we figured out to add up to 75. And now we're going to create the grid. And here's how we do it. Think of these as columns going up and down. The 11 column, the 3 column, the 1 column, the 4, and the 9. And we're going to add these together. So 17 plus 11 is 28. 14 plus 11 is 24. 11 plus 2 is 13. Everybody with me? We just did this row. Did I know my internet connection is unstable. I hope you're still with me. Okay. All right. Just said my internet is unstable. All right. I'm going to let you guys, you can unmute yourselves if you want for a second. I'm going to let you do the adding, okay? 17 plus 1?
18.
Oh, you guys are good. 14 plus 1?
15.
18. Oh.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I'll do this one here. You want to do the next one? 17 plus 4. What you should be, by now you understand what I'm doing, right? Okay, you can answer. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now, what you should be more impressed about is that I was able to put this together in Keynote and add all these builds. Okay, so There are 78 builds in this presentation. Okay. So now we've created the grid. And you see how we did it, right?
Mhm.
So now, when you do the show, you're going to get rid of those planters. See, that's your secret right there. And now this is the grid that will add up to 75. So I'm going to try it now. So I'm going to circle a number, 25, and you cross off the numbers that are next to it, above it, all right, left and right, horizontal and vertical. So now I'm going to pick the number 12, and we're going to cross off here and here. And then I'll pick the number 6, and we'll cross off here and here. You see how this is working. And then let's do 20. Okay. And then let's do 12. And if you add those 5 numbers up, they add up to 75. Yes? Good? Everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. That's how easy it is. All right. So now take your pencil and paper, and we're going to force the number 56. 56. See it? So I'm doing a 3x3 grid, and I've thought of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers because it's 3x3. That's 6 numbers. And I put those numbers in here, so I'd like you to add up the columns. Can you do that? And if you do that, I'll give you a minute to do that. It should force the number 56. So once you do those columns, then you can circle one and cross off, circle one, cross off, circle one, cross off, and those 3 numbers will add up to 56. If it works, say it worked. I'll give you a chance to do that. Yes?
It worked.
Worked. Of course
Yep.
it worked. I showed you. All right. Of course it worked. Pretty easy, right? You agree?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's how you do the matrix. Okay.
So-
You can
so-
create a matrix for any number. Questions?
Yeah, so the number, so you're using 6 numbers because it's 3x3. So if you're doing 10x10, then it would be 20 numbers, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And
Okay.
when you start doing 8, 9, and 10 grids, now you're getting into 4 digits or 6 digits, right?
Right.
So now, how do you use this? How do you use the idea of using a grid? Well, I mean, if you had a lock with a combination, you want to force the number of the combination, you could do that, right? A birth date, you know, the guest of honor's birth date, it adds up to the birthday. I mean, there's dozens of possibilities. I'm sure your minds are going wild right now with ideas. But here's a cool idea. You ready? This is so great. There are magicians that didn't want me to tell you about this, all right? Because they knew about it. They read it in my column a few years ago. Wait till you see this. There is a website called Photofunia. If you learn nothing else tonight, you're going to thank me for this. Photofunia.com, okay? Watch this. On the bottom here is a yacht. Let's use the yacht as an example. So let's say the number that I'm forcing you is 3456, okay? If I hit go, this is all free, by the way, it will create a picture with the number 3456 on it, which I know you're all laughing and smiling now and thinking this is the greatest thing you've ever seen tonight. Okay, and so you can now download this picture and put it on your phone or put it on your computer or your tablet. You can download it. It's free. It's free. And so now you can say to somebody, you know, I had a show back in February before the pandemic, and we were on a yacht, and I couldn't remember the number of the yacht, but the guy sent me these numbers, and maybe you can help me figure out the number of the yacht. You get this? Is this fantastic? All right, look at this.
Hey, Bruce, where does the number go on the mermaid?
That's for you to find out. Okay, so now you'll see. But look at this, Einstein. Einstein writes 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's now on his. and you download it and you have a picture of Einstein. You can print these out too. Okay, there are all sorts of things you can do on here. There's billboard signs. Billboard signs, you can take a picture of a card, you holding a card, that kind of thing. There's let's see, coins, coffee, playing cards, newspapers, unbelievable the stuff that's in here that you can do. Here's magazines. Look at this. How about this? And put the number right there, right? 1,250 people voted for it. Well, we won't get into politics. All right.
What issue was that in?
I can't remember, but it was a couple of years ago. And I'll tell you, those that read it and did it absolutely loved the thing. And when I started doing this lecture and telling people about it, they go, oh, don't tell anybody. We're so good. Hey, you want to be Banksy? You can put your picture in there and have it shred. Look. Movie posters. I mean, you can see the tons of possibilities here, right? Have you seen this wizard? So there you go. It's called Photofunia. It's absolutely free. Photofunia.com. And there's all sorts of, even if you don't use this for your shows, you're going to use it for your holiday cards. You're going to use it for your promotional materials, for your advertising. But there it is, photofunia.com. Any questions on that? That's a good one, isn't it? That's a handy little thing to have. Any questions? You can open up and ask. Okay. So putting those two things together.
How big a grid would you make for something like that?
It depends on how big a number you want to use. Like I said, 4-digit numbers, you can use the 5x5 grid. If you're going to go to 5 or 6-digit numbers, I would use an 8x8 grid. And it's in the lecture notes. You're going to get a copy of that grid to remind you of what it is. All right. But did you find that useful? Is that good for you?
Yeah.
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 Good. All right. Just want to make sure. All right. So now I'm going to stop sharing and go back to me again. I love this. This is so easy now. Okay. And now I can see you guys again. There you go. I want to take a moment to talk about this. Do any of you have this trick? I know a few of you said you did. This trick put me on the map. It absolutely put me on the map. As it's the growing and shrinking head illusion. I've done it at the castle, in the parlor, in fact. A lot of magicians. It's funny, when Jack hired me to work the castle the first time he hired me, he said, don't do the spiral. Everybody's doing the spiral. I go, Jack, it's my trick. It's the one I came up with. I said, it's like telling Norm Nielsen, don't do the violin. I mean, come on. So he said, well, it won't work in the parlor. Everybody's tried it there. I'll do it. It'll work in the parlor. And guess what? Works in the parlor. It's a fantastic trick to use. The great thing about this trick, I know I have my screen on, so it's going to fade away. The great thing about this trick is you don't have to do a thing. You spin it, you count backwards from 10 to 1, and your head shrinks. It's great. So I have some tips about it, but I do want to show you something that we use for it now. And by the way, we now, thanks to a customer's idea, we now have folding ones that a lot easier to work with. I'll hold it closer so you can see. But I want to tell you about this little gimmick.
Does that only shrink your head halfway if you have it folded?
Yes, absolutely. Just half your head. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk to you about this. See this? David Kaplan, you know who David Kaplan is? Funniest magician in the world. The one with the bowling ball that drops down. I laugh every time. I met him when I became president at the Combined Convention. And we were in the room, and he said, so do you do any tricks that I would know? I go, I do the growing and shrinking head. That's my trick that I put out. He says, oh my God, I love that trick. oh, you know how I spin it? And he said, I got to show you. And he ran to his room and he came back and he showed me this little crank thing that he had. It was this, but with a little crank on the end. And he showed me what it was. And I said, oh, that's great. He goes, you want to put it out? Put it out. It's okay, you know. So we give him credit. We called it Kaplan's crank. And then he said, I don't want to make the cranks anymore. I said, that's okay. I said, I have an improvement idea. So I came up with this. This is from my physics class. And because of the length of it, this thing turns. Because of the length of it and because of the weight, and everything has been figured out, and I'll show you on here. So here's one right here. It's on here. Can you see that? I hope so. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that I'll do it this way first. I spin it 4 times, 2, 3, 4, and this thing will turn now for a minute. I'm not doing a thing, and it turns all by itself. Isn't that fantastic? You don't need the motor now. You don't need the screwdriver. It's great. It's really great. And look, it keeps going. All right. And I'm not doing a thing. It's just, and it's because of the weight of the spiral and the length of this thing, the way it's come out. So that'll go for a minute and a half. I have no sound, no worries. So if you have this trick, or if you want to get this trick, you will buy this trick. You will buy this. Okay. If you want to get this trick, we now have something called Kaplan's crank, and or kinetic crank. So I'll tell you more about it when I switch the screen again. And there you go. And I want to give you I've seen some wonderful presentations of the spiral, and I've seen some horrible presentations of the spiral. So I want to give you some tips when you use the spiral. First of all, you must stand a minimum of 6 feet away from the audience. Social distance from your audience if you're going to do this trick. The further away you are, the better you are, because they're focusing more on the spiral. So you have to be at least 6 feet away. When I do this in the parlor, the castle, that front row is there. I go all the way to where that curtain is, and I hold it right by the curtain. That's 7 feet. I measured it. And that works beautifully. So the people in the front see it, but the people in the back really see it because they're further away. All right? Spectators have to stare at the entire spiral and not just the center. Don't tell people, look at the center. You're not going to get as good as effect as the entire spiral. I always say, you want to look at the spiral as if you're going through a tunnel. Get the entire spiral, see the whole thing. That's what I say. All right? Third tip. The staring must be at least 45 seconds long. So even though I'm counting backwards from 10 to 1, it's not 10 seconds, it's 45 seconds. I have patter at the castle where I say, 10, keep staring at the spiral. Don't look away. 9, make sure you're looking at the entire spiral and not just the center. 8, you will join the magic castle. You will join the magic castle. 7, I go right down to the whole thing. But it's 45 seconds long, okay? And finally, when they stare at you after you say 1 and they say, look at my face, don't move for at least 10 seconds. Just freeze. Don't move. Because some people, it's a delay. It has to do with your muscles in your eyes. There's a delay. So you want to stay there so they all get it. If you move after 3 or 4 seconds, you've lost half the audience. So when they stare at you, don't move. The other thing, don't do this. Don't go up on your toes, like I've seen some people do. Don't bloat your face. Just stand there and look straight ahead. And I guarantee you're going to have a bigger reaction than you ever got in your life. So those are the tips. And finally, if you do decide to use a cordless screwdriver, it has to be between 180 revolutions per minute to 250 revolutions per minute. Most Black & Decker cordless screwdrivers do that. The best one I've seen is the IKEA. It sells for like $10. And if you go to an IKEA store, it's a black cordless screwdriver. It's perfect. It's like 170 revolutions per minute, which is perfect because you don't want it to go too fast. A power drill is too much. You don't want it to blur. You want to be able to see it, okay? And then that's the crank. That's what it looks like. It's called kinetic crank. I'll tell you more about it at the end because I don't want to make this a dealer demo. But we have these, and I'll tell you, that's what I use now. You can get it on a plane if you're traveling again. You can get it on a plane. There's no batteries involved, no noise. It's fantastic. Okay. Any questions on any of that?
Yes, will that work in the palace?
You know it'll work in the palace. Absolutely.
Even the sides?
Even the sides. So there was a show that I did where I had, and that's a great question. I did a show where the audience was like 3/4 of the way around me. And so I split the audience in half, and I turned to the left and did it for the left side. This was actually in a gymnasium. I turned to the left and I said to the people on the right, watch their reaction. And I did it for the people on the left, and they went crazy. So now the people on the right want to see what they saw. So now I show it to the people on the right, and I say to the people on the left, watch their reaction. And it's great because it's a great buildup. But in the palace, as long as you're upstage as far as possible, everybody will see it. You won't have a problem with that. None whatsoever. In fact, I've never worked the palace. I like the parlor because it's an intimate room. It's your room. You're not sharing it with anyone. Not that I don't want to share a show, but I feel that I'm doing parlor tricks. I tried all of my tricks during the day in the palace to see if they would work the same way. And they do. They all work the same way in the palace. Every trick that I do in the parlor, I can do in the palace. So I know it's a wide room, but if you're further upstage, like I said, the further away you are, the better it is. One mistake that people make, I had, what's his name? Well, I had a famous magician who was working in a football stadium, and he had them zoom in on the spiral and put it on the jumbotron, and it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work was because you have to be a distance away. If you zoom in on it and make it big, you have to be a half a mile away in order for it to work. So I said, the next time you do that, don't let them zoom in on a spiral. Let them just show you naturally on the screen like they normally would, and it'll still work. They'll get the effect. When you get a chance, if you go to YouTube and you put in Bruce Kalver Comedy Festival or Bruce Kalver Growing and Shrinking Head Spiral or anything like that, watch me do it at the Rhode Island Comedy Festival, and you'll see we don't even zoom in. When you see it on the screen, the spiral is about the size of a silver dollar, but it'll still work perfectly. Does that help? Anybody else? No. I've done this for years, this trick. The history of it is, if you want to take a minute on that, is that the Rhode Island School Board of Education, many years ago, it was in the 70s, called me up and they said, we have a grant for a good amount of money if you have a show on optical illusions and eye safety. Do you have such a show? And I said, of course I do. And well, every magic show is optical illusions. I said, what do I need? And they said, well, you need a workbook for teachers that they can use after the show. So in doing the research to find the workbook, I saw this little tiny spiral about the size of a bagel. I'm using that reference a lot tonight. And they talked about the Aristotle effect, the after motion effect, where Aristotle looked at a waterfall and then he looked at rocks and the rocks moved. It's called the Aristotle after effect. So I looked at the spiral and it was different than this one. And I said, I wonder if this thing works. So I photocopied it and I put it on my record player. That's how long ago it was. And I spun it. And then I looked at my dog and my dog shrunk. And I went, oh, I have something here. So I called Larry White, who is the magic editor of MUM. he also designed a lot of the exhibits for the Museum of Science. And I said, do you know about the Aristotle effect? He said, oh, yeah, you found it. He goes, yeah. He says, but you have to do this and you have to do that. He gave me about 10 rules that it can't be in color and the edges have to be like this and that. 18 spirals later, the one you just saw is the one that we came up with. And it worked great. And that's the history of the spiral. But that spiral helped my son go to college. I'm very thrilled that it's become a staple of everyone's act, and there it is. Let me move on. So now let's talk about playing cards. Okay, I mark all my decks. I mark every deck, and I know you've seen the Boris Wilde mark deck and so forth. I'm going to show you how I mark mine. So this card is marked. Can any of you see it? You want to tell me what card it is? Some of you will catch it.
3 of diamonds.
Yes, it's the 3 of diamonds. A miracle. And the other people are going, what?
I can see the other side.
Yeah, it's right here. You see the 3 of diamonds right there? 3D, 3D. How did I do that? I used an X-Acto knife. That's what I do. I scratch them out. You've seen scratch art where it's black and you scratch it out. That's what gave me the initial idea. I've been doing this since the late 60s. And here's the 3, here's the D. This area right here is wide open for you to scratch it in. Now, what I'll tell you is all the spades do not have the S for spade. It's too difficult to scratch that. So the diamonds, clubs, and hearts have a letter next to them, but the spades do not. Okay? That's how I know instantly that it's a spade. Here's another card. Now, 10s, rather than doing a 1 and 0, I do an X. Roman numeral 10. Much like Apple's 10th anniversary iPhone 10, not iPhone X. Okay. You see the 10 of diamonds there, everybody? 10 of diamonds right here.
Yep.
Okay, and here's another card to give you an idea. What card is that?
4 of spades.
4 of spades, because there's no S there, right? And I mark the cards using the X-Acto knife. I find that holding the X-Acto knife sideways instead of the way you would normally zip cut something, they work better. And I'll tell you, you just have to get a feel for it. Practice on old cards, practice on jokers, you'll get it. And there it is. But very subtle. In all the years that I've done this, not one person has noticed them, even magicians. Not one person has noticed those markings.
Similar to the Leslie deck.
The Ted Leslie was the first guy I saw that did that. But he used rub-on letters, which wore down. But I always did it with an X-Acto knife. I can do an entire deck because it's, they're in order. I can do an entire deck in 10 minutes right now.
You do both halves or just the one half?
I was waiting for that question. I only do one side. I only do one side because, I don't know, psychologically I feel that if I do 2, that it might be overkill. And I can read upside down. The other thing I do is if I make a mistake, and it happens, I use the other side. So I have 2 shots at a card. Okay. You're also going to find that those birds that are flying there kind of become part of like the 10 has got the 2 birds there, you see, in the corners there. Like I incorporated the bird as part of the X. So there's plenty of room there once you get the hang of it. And there you go. I would keep the card not in your hand, but on the table and scratch it from there. Any other questions about that?
You mean you don't want to bleed on
Yeah.
your cards?
No, not usually, unless they're red deck, unless they're a red deck. You may be wondering why I always marked my cards. I had an incident that happened one time before I used a mark deck. And that incident was I was doing a cocktail hour at a Marriott in Boston Harbor for this tech company. This is early tech company. I think it was Raytheon, actually. And yeah, it was Raytheon. And I was walking around this cocktail party, and you're working for little groups doing your stuff. And I had one guy, he was drunk from the start, and he kept following me from group to group to try and figure out the trick. And after about the third group, and he was kind of annoying around the thing, he said, "You're going to follow me all night?" And he grabbed my deck of cards, which was not marked. He grabbed my deck of cards, and he said, "I'll tell you what, magician. I'll hold up one card. If you tell me what it is, I'll leave you alone for the rest of the night." And he held up one card, and I don't know, I'm just a lucky guy. He happened to be standing in front of the bar, which the back of the bar was all mirrors. Okay. And I can see the card because it's in the mirror. And I said, if I tell you the card, you'll leave me alone? And he said, yeah. And I told him the card. He said, damn, you're a good magician. He handed me the deck, and he never bothered me for the night. And thank God the mirror was there. But from when I got home, I said, you know what? I don't want that to ever happen again. And that's when I started marking my cards. And there they are.
So
But, yeah.
the good thing about marking one side versus two is that if you stage it just right, you can actually fan the deck, because that's how people look for marked cards, is fanning the deck.
Yeah, and they don't see it. And they
Yeah,
don't-
you could do it on the part that's facing down right now, and they
Right.
won't see it. And then, you're just basically fanning that. The other side
Excellent.
is good, it's all good for
Yeah.
you.
Excellent point. There's another point that somebody hasn't brought up yet. I was waiting for it.
You
By
can
marking
make it
the
a one.
card.
It's
Go
a
ahead.
one-way deck.
It's a one-way deck. There you go. It's now a one-way deck. I mean, look at the advantages of this, right? You don't have to go peeking really hard on the corners to find this stuff as you get older, wearing glasses and all that, So this to me is blatantly good. So now if I ever see you in person, I hand you a deck. First thing you guys are going to do is look for the mark. I know you are, because now you know. But there they are. There's the marked cards. And any other questions on that? I hope that was good for you. I think these are practical things that you can use, which is why I bring it up. And I don't have to be in person with you to show you this stuff, which is why I put this together the way I did. You're wondering, what is I smell something?
What is that?
Yeah, in my column, I always put a funny title that relates to what I'm talking about here. So I decided to do it here too. So I'm going to stop sharing and show you what that is. I'm even going to shut off. You can see that. No. You can see me, right?
Right.
All right. So I'm going to, am I spotlighted? I don't even know. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut off the curtain so you can see what I'm about to show you. Okay. Let me shut off the curtain here. You're going to see what's really here. Let's see. Which thing should I do first? Wait, let's do this. That's even better. Hey. No, I'll do it. Green screen. That's all it is. A green screen. There's a 5-foot baby grand piano, seriously, right behind there that my mother taught me how to play on. That I subsequently taught my kids how to play. All right, I want to show you a device. This is not for everyone, but I want to show you this because I got really excited about this. Please tell me if I'm going too long for you, okay? All right. So you see this? See this?
Oh, yeah.
You see how big it is?
Yeah.
All right. If I had a quarter here, I'd show you. I might have a quarter.
This is what I won Magic from Mom at our meeting.
Oh, really? Is it mine or is it one of the ripoffs?
It's from your article.
Okay, great. So you see this?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So this, I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to use 2 drops. 1, 2. 2 drops of this. And I have the remote right here. And watch this. Okay, and this, as long as I press this, this will keep going. See it? Now, I'm not coughing. You know why? It's vape. It's not, it's moisture. It's not smoke. I can use this in the castle, and I do. So you see this?
Yeah,
That's 2 drops, and it's still going. Look. So this is what we call the smoke gimmick, or TSG. There it is. It's about the size of a chunky, if you're old enough to remember a chunky, right?
Yeah, chunky.
Chunky, open wide, or 2 sugar cubes. That's how big it is. And what this comes with is incredible. Let me open this up and show you. Oh, I can show you on the thing. I'll show you on the thing. But still using the 2 drops. Look, still going. Okay. It's small enough that you can palm it, and we give you holders to palm it. It's small enough to put in a deck of cards and have it smoke up from it. So here's the story. I was at a convention, and I'll show you some more. I was at a convention, and a gentleman from China, Korea, somewhere, didn't speak English. And I see this thing in the corner, in the back. And I said, "What is that?" And he goes, oh. And he does this. And I went, "I'll take 2." And he said, "I only have 1." So I bought it. His card was in it's Korean, I guess. His card was Korean. I didn't understand it. I got home and I thought, this thing is great. And if you've ever seen my illusion, You're There, that I do at the castle, this is how I do the smoke. And so I was doing a show at the Parent Assembly in New York, and they wanted me to do my castle act and then explain how I put it all together. So at the end, I said, any questions? And one guy said, "How are you doing your smoke?" So I said, "Wait till you see this thing." And I show him, and I go, "I don't know where you're going to get this." And even in my column, I said, "I don't know where you're going to get this." And as I'm talking about it, a gentleman in the front row starts smiling. And I said, "You know about this?" And he said, "My roommate makes them." He's the guy that makes them. And I said, "Don't you move, and nobody go near him." So after the lecture, I talked to him, and yeah, his roommate Peter originated this. There are ripoffs of them now, but he originated this. It's 3D printed, totally 3D printed, and it's his friend Peter is an engineer for a vaping company in China. And so he knows about this stuff. And he made this thing, and it is still 2 drops, everybody. Look, unbelievable, right? So now, when I'm going to show you the whole system in a minute. This is vape juice. The no nicotine, just vape juice. You can get it at any vape store. And 2 drops will give you about 3 minutes of smoke or more. And when I do it at the castle, I don't know if any of you have seen that trick at the castle, my Pepper's Ghost. There's a rose involved. I might show it to you before I go. There's a rose involved in the trick. And I wanted to do some, not only visual senses, I wanted to do the sense of smell. So I bought some rose scent, and you put 10 drops of it in with the vape juice. So now what you're not smelling, and I am, is when I do this, I'm smelling roses. So I'm hitting another sense. Still going, see, 2 drops. So as long as you hold down the remote, it's going to keep doing the smoke. Okay. So now let me go back to here, and I'll show you.
If I may, try using rose glycerin.
Yes. Yeah.
It works really well for that.
Yeah,
type of thing.
absolutely. There's also a company, it was in my column, there's also a company that does different scents for fog. There's cemetery, there's grandma, there's popcorn, There's cotton. I'm not kidding. There's grandma. All right, here you go. You see that? So this is the kit. Oh, let me go back. Let me see if I can go back. All right, let's do it again. Remember this? Okay, let's do this again. You can all see my screen now? Okay.
Yeah.
It went back again? All right.
Yeah.
There you go. So that little white thing right here is the smoke gimmick. This is a directional piece. So if you don't want it to come out the top, you can have it go out the front. That's good if you're doing cards. Okay. We have a little finger palm holder for the smoke gimmick. We have a strap so you can put it up your sleeve and have the smoke come out with that. The charger, the remote control, some vape juice, a case to keep it in, a magnet shim. So if you want to magnetize this on something, there it is. That's the whole kit. It sells for $130. You get everything there. It's $130, and I have to tell you, it's one of the greatest gimmicks that I have and I use. One thing that you can do with that, which is a lot of fun, is if you borrow somebody's phone, you can palm this behind the phone and say, hey, did you hear about the new battery recall on these Android phones? I hear that they heat up real quick, and while you're talking, it's smoking like crazy. They love it. They love it. So, Alan Watson uses that all the time. He raves about it. But that's the smoke gimmick. Any questions? Anyone?
Nope.
Okay. I think I got pretty complete on that. All right. So there's the smoke gimmick. We have some. Not a lot. I'll tell you all about it in a minute. All right. Can we still go? We got some time? A little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Taking it all in. You may
3 hours to go.
All right, great. Great. Till election day. Okay. So this is a scanner. This is a scanner that I like to tell people about. It's how we're doing the rest of the MUMs. And I use it for a lot of things. So this scanner is called the Caesar Shine Ultra. It was a Kickstarter project. I got mine. I'm using it. I love it. It's between $125 and $150. Okay. What's great about it is you can put a book down. You don't have to lie it flat. The software flattens it for you and straightens it out. It comes with a foot pedal. So you press the foot pedal and you turn the page. You press the foot pedal and you turn the page. You can do a 300-page book in 8 minutes. Here's how it works. Look. You scan a page a second. That's how quick it scans. That is not a joke. Isn't that incredible? That's how quickly it scans. Okay. It also is a video camera. So you see that black mat that's on the bottom here? You can use that as a close-up pad or put your close-up pad on top of it. The camera shines down and you can show your hands doing this stuff, and you can video record it right to your computer. So this is an incredible little piece of equipment. I ordered mine in November. I was number 549. I got mine last week. Because of COVID, getting parts and factories closing and so forth. But I got mine and I love it. I had seen a demo of it before that, back in the fall of last year. And I knew it worked well, and I couldn't wait to get it. And somebody wrote to me because I put on Facebook that I got mine. And the person said, what number are you? And I said, 549. He said, oh, great, I'm number 20,206. So here's where it came from. It's an Indiegogo project. And they got their backers in less than 24 hours. But if you want one, and they're making them, they're catching up. It's called the Caesar, C-Z-U-R, Shine Ultra. And I highly, highly recommend this thing. Any questions about that? I have no stake in this whatsoever. They don't even know that I'm pushing it, but it was in my column promoting it because I thought the thing was incredible. I've digitized a ton of my stuff. Pretty impressive. So that's that. Okay. I don't know if you're interested in this next subject, but I'll bring it up and I'll let you decide. So one of the things that I've done throughout the years, this is my 55th year in magic, 55 years of doing magic. And one of the things that I've enjoyed doing throughout the years, I have a degree in theater. I've worked on many productions. I owned a dinner theater company that did shows for the Marriott hotels. And I've always called in as a magic consultant. And have any of you done magic consulting? What shows have you done, if you have? These are a handful of the shows that I've done. And every show has a story. But if you get it, have any of you done magic consulting at all for plays or musicals? Anyone?
A little bit. I've been done a little bit.
What show was it?
Damn Yankees.
Oh, what a great show to do. So you did the cigarette production?
Yeah.
Yep, and a couple of other things to make them disappear or turn into a young guy?
Yeah, there were a couple different effects that we did for it, yeah.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I did it for Mary Poppins, did the things out of the
Suitcase?
out of the suitcase, yeah.
Yeah, the carpet bag? Yeah, that's great. That's great. Isn't it fun to figure it out? It really gets your mind going to figure out what to do. These are some of the shows. I have stories about all of them. I'm not going to tell you all the stories. I'll tell you one that the show Carnival. Are you familiar with the show Carnival? No. It's Lily, the musical Lily with the puppets. And one of the main characters is a magician, Marco the magician. And he does a whole bunch of illusions in that show. He does a sword cabinet while the girl sings to him a love song. That's also the show that I met my wife on. So I have very fond memories of Carnival. We've now been married for 42 years, so pretty cool. Pick a show, I'll tell you a story. Somebody pick a show. Which one?
How about Dracula?
Dracula, yeah. So Dracula, all these theater companies have low budgets, almost no budget to do these things. But I always do them because you become very creative and fun with that. The thing about Dracula was they were trying to come up with a way of having a bat flying through the room, but they didn't have room for threads going across the stage or anything like that. And they wanted a clever way for the maid to chase after the bat that was flying around in the room. Anybody have any ideas how they could do it before I tell you how I did it?
The Waltzing Matilda?
That's exactly what I did. Good for you. That's exactly what I did. I had a broom, and on the broom I did the Steve Duschek Waltzing Matilda thing with a bat attached. And so as the maid was trying to catch the bat, to fly it away with a broom, it was shaking around above it, and it looked like it was flying. And it was all so self-contained. It was perfect. Nice job. You thought of it. Good for you. If you saw my lecture before, don't answer this, okay? There was a show that I did last year, in fact, called Xana Don't. It was an off-Broadway show. Evidently, the person in the character in the show does some magical things throughout the day. He's not a magician, but he does some magical things. This was during the time that Xanadu was on Broadway. They had another show called Xana Don't. So the challenge was, the director called me, and I was about to leave to do the Magic Castle the following week. So I only had 1 week with them. I actually had one rehearsal with them. And the director called me and he said, Bruce, the character has to wake up for breakfast, ask what they want for breakfast, and the person says, I'd like some Pop-Tarts, and he has to reach in the air and pull out Pop-Tarts, a package of Pop-Tarts. And I said, wrapped or unwrapped in the foil? And he said, wrapped in the foil and then unwrapped in the foil. I said, perfect, that's just what I need. So before I tell you how I did it, do you have any ideas how to do it? How to make somebody make a Pop-Tart appear, in the foil from thin air? Anyone?
Back palm card.
Yeah, the guy had no palming ability whatsoever. He had no pockets either in his costume. So what I did was I took some memory foam, from a pillow or packaging material, and I cut it down to the size of a Pop-Tart. And then I bought some Pop-Tarts, and I carefully, with my X-Acto knife, opened up the foil packet, put the memory foam in, ate the Pop-Tart, okay, put the memory foam in, and I found, and once I sealed the foil again, that I could fold it almost like a playing card, in half and in half again, and it would fold down to something that he could fit in his palm. But like an appearing cane, if he just opened his hand, that thing sprung open and took shape. And it was perfect. So we had real Pop-Tarts in the box, and we had this fake one. And so he made it appear, and luckily in the show, he went to put it in the box to hand it to him. And he said, no, I'll eat it here. So we did a switch and pulled out the other one. So that was a lot of fun. I'll do one more for you. Picasso at the La Panagile was a Steve Martin play. And have any of you seen this show? It's a very funny show.
I have, yeah.
Einstein's in it, right? Picasso. And there's a scene where they're in a cafe, and the director said, it has to snow. And when it snows, it can only snow on one person. In other words, they're sitting at a little table, but one person it has to snow, but the other person it doesn't. And I said, okay, no budget, of course. And the way I did it was we made heavy confetti. We used some construction paper that was heavier than just tissue paper. And I used a cigar box that was held upside down in the rafters and a string. And on cue, they'd pull the string, the cigar box would open, and that heavy confetti would just fall straight down, fluttering on top of the person. And I remember the first time I said to the director, you ready to watch this? He said, yeah. And I did it, and it snowed just on that one person. And he said, how the hell did you do that? So heavy confetti won. Anybody have any comments or thoughts on working for theater companies? They're fantastic because you can come up with some really clever ideas. Every one of these shows has Jack the Ripper was a musical, believe it or not. And they wanted Jack to have some magic involved. And we did everything from a zombie ball that he used the ball from a pawn shop, the 3 balls that hang out, and did some great stuff with his cape. And the show was terrible. But the reviews all said, the music was okay, the show is terrible, the acting is good, but the magic was fantastic. So that's what you want, That was Trinity Square Repertory Company that did it. Okay, I could go on for hours on this, and maybe one day I'll put a lecture together on all the different tricks that I created for different shows. Seussical was a lot of fun too. So there's that. Do we have about a few more minutes here to talk? Is everybody okay? You still with me?
Plenty.
We're
All right.
Bruce, we can go like until people drop off. So you pretty much have until you either expend yourself.
We're almost there. We're almost there. I want to talk about this. Are any of you familiar with this, the Aristotle triangle?
Yeah, I learned all about that. I learned about that in my speech class.
Tyler
Yeah.
he just took off, but he's learning about it in school right now.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. When I was in college in speech class, that's exactly what it is. We learned about the Aristotle triangle. It was at that moment that I realized that the Aristotle triangle is what will make me a better magician. And I'm surprised at the number of people that don't use this to criticize themselves or to work out their own routines. And it's only when I really applied the Aristotle triangle to my act that I would come up with things like my Pepper's Ghost, You're There, which really stresses the Aristotle triangle. And when I see other acts, the acts that stand out are the ones that use this. Let me translate this for you. Credibility. Aristotle gave a speech or gave a paper on what makes a good orator, and that can apply to being a good magician also. And really, these three things are what make it special: credibility, logic, and emotion. I'm going to go just a little deep down the hole here, okay? Credibility, logic, and emotion. If you can get those three things the proper way in your routine, you have a perfect routine. You have an absolute perfect routine. I can cite examples of this. So what does this mean? Credibility. Do you know what you're talking about? Why should I watch you unless you have some credentials, some credibility? Do you know what you're talking about? This is the one thing, and I don't want to criticize anybody because I love the fact that there's magic on TV, and I won't mention it by name, but there's one magic show that drives me insane when I watch it because they introduce an act, the person does one trick, super edited down, and then they move on to the next magician. And to me, they haven't established their credibility to accept them and enjoy their show. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but in my mind, let them do 3 or 4 tricks. Stop jumping around from person to person, because I need to create that. I need to understand the credibility of this person. But anyway, do you know what you're talking about? Does the audience really care to listen to you? The second thing is logic. Does what you're doing make sense? Why are you turning to the right? Why did you put your back to the audience? Why are you putting that person on the left side when they really should be on the right side? Does everything that you're doing in your act make sense? And the last thing, and the most important, is how does the spectator feel after the trick? Do they feel nostalgic? Do they feel embarrassed? Do they feel like they want to see more? What emotion are you leaving them with to create this? So these 3 things, the credibility, the logic, and the emotion, create the perfect illusion. Let's talk Norm Nielsen. Norm Nielsen established his credibility before he went to the violin by doing all that sleight of hand stuff and charm. The charm was what brought it through. And then by the time he got to the violin, oh my God, this guy was the greatest magician in the world. You agree? Same thing with the logic. Everything he did made sense. Everything. The flute, the violin, the way you'd swear that violin was talking to him by the way that he was working around with it. By the way, I did an interview with Norm Nielsen for the SAM, and I called Lupe at the end and I said, I forgot to ask you one question. What's the name of the violin? Because I'm sure you have a nickname for that violin. And she started laughing. She says, we do, but we've never told anybody. I said, what's the violin's name? And she said, Bruce. And I said, are you just saying that because I'm asking you? She said, no, She said, I always remembered your name because the violin's name was Bruce. She said, I don't know why we called it that, but it looked like a Bruce to us, and we called it Bruce. So now you have a piece of trivia you didn't know. And now, how does the spectator feel afterwards? So I want to talk to you about a routine. This is the routine. And by the way, I commissioned somebody to make this poster because of this routine. This poster, which is available, was created on an iPad with a program called Procreate, little $10 program. And the creative at where I work at Apple, who does the graphic design, did this on the big screen there. It took him a week to do it. There are 123 layers on that thing. And it's my act, including the You're There. What's cool about this poster is my wife Arlene's name is hidden in the poster. The poster's been out for a year now, and up to now, only 2 people have found her name. And they were 13 and 14 years old, these 2 girls. But anyway, that's the poster. If you collect posters, I'll tell you how to get that later on. So now let's talk about the routine. I'm going to show you tonight a rehearsal video of me presenting the illusion, if you haven't seen it, okay? Because I want to show you the Aristotle triangle and how I used it in the show. Now, I'm a little embarrassed to show you this video because it's not a performance video. It's a rehearsal video to check the lighting and the angles and the timing in the parlor. So please don't judge it by that, okay? I just wanted you to see the routine. And by the way, we now do the routine differently than we did in 2014 when you're going to see this. So I'm going to show you the video right now. I hope you can hear it. Please let me know when it starts if you can hear the music playing, okay? So here we go. Can you hear it?
A little background in my entertainment history. I found an early advertising piece of mine I'd like to show you. Yes, that's me. Age 14. I still have that hair, only now it's in my top drawer. Yeah. I had many mentors who shaped my future. My grandmother, Jeanette, who I never met, was a dancer with Rudolph Valentino in silent films. My grandfather was a sheet metal worker, builder, magician, and assistant to Houdini. My mother was a radio singer who won Major Beau's Amateur Hour on the radio, did USO tours, and eventually became a nightclub singer. And my father? He was a great audience. Whenever I perform, I always feel that they're here with me. So I always carry mementos to remind me of them. This rose represents my grandmother. She always carried or wore something with a rose. This deck of cards is the actual deck of cards that my grandfather used to teach me sleight of hand magic. And that little blue notebook in there, well, that's very special. That's my mother's address book. And it contains all the phone numbers for the performers that she worked with. And even more important, her agent's numbers. Whenever I perform, I always feel that they're here. And so I dedicate this next illusion in memory of my mentors.
Our friends all use the past tense when they speak of you. And so to make them comfortable, I use it too. They'd soon have me committed if they only knew what I believe with all my heart is true. I know you're there, although it's nothing I can prove. I know you're there, from just the way the shadows move. And though I said goodbye and finally let you go, I know you're there. Although I don't know how, I know you see the crazy things I sometimes do, they'd make you laugh. So I still do them just for you. And while I'm entertaining all the friends we love, I know you see, and that you're laughing from above. You needn't panic, I'm not consulting any guru, calling psychics, practicing with voodoo. I'm not manic or depressive, I just miss you. So I'll go on, enjoying a life for all it's worth, because I'm sure that you're still sharing in the mirth. And when there's sadness, it's no more that I can bear, because you are and always were and always will be.
So there it is. A little different. A little
Very
different.
nice.
Thanks. So let's discuss this a minute. So that's a rehearsal video. That's not the whole emotional thing. So the Aristotle triangle, do we leave you with an emotion in the end? Absolutely. I established credibility by the speech that I gave in the middle. You know, all of those three things, those three elements, really were deep into this. So that's a perfect example of it. Now, that was 2014 when I came out with it. Now, we don't have that frame. We now have a rolled up canvas that I give out to somebody in the audience. They roll it up. The ghosts go to them. They unroll it from the audience, and now the ghosts are on there. It's a much cleaner version of it, and a much more mysterious and amazing version of it there. The smoke that I use is this. It's great. You know, it does its job. And there's that. Any questions on it at all? I can tell you everything except how it's done. But talking about it, it's Pepper's Ghost, but I came up with
Reminds me of the card trick that Jim Steinmeier did, the play.
Yes.
At the very end, the card trick. That's like from the 20s. A card trick like that from the 20s.
Yeah, Pepper's Ghost. I'll tell you. So let me tell you about the music. You like the music? Yeah. So this whole routine started out that I was going to do have a box like a cage and have a little animated bunny rabbit. This is how we start. An animated bunny rabbit that was going to do a card trick. You always go to that card trick thing, don't we? And he was going to throw cards out of the cage and do this whole silly, funny thing. And I had this animator that I know starting to animate this rabbit. And after about a few weeks of this, I went, you know what? Let's forget it. Just forget it, because I do enough funny stuff in my show, humorous stuff. And I want something more personal. I want something more emotional that people are going to remember. So let's scrap it for now. And about 2 months later, I was looking. I always start my routines by coming up with the song first. The song inspires the routine. Does that happen with some of you? I'm sure it does. So I was listening through my iPhone different songs. And one album came up, and she's an actress on Broadway who wrote these songs, and it was a vanity album that she put out. And she put out this song, and it was the way she arranged it and sang it, because she wrote it, was very depressing. It was about her husband who had died, and that she feels he's still there, you know. But she did it in a very sad and depressing way. So I listened to this song, and something in my head went, that's it. I'm going to bring back my mentors, my relatives, my famous relatives, and honor them in this routine, and people will think about their families after. So I remember driving in the car, and I said to my wife, listen to this song. This is the song I'm going to use for that box tree. And I played the song, and she said, that is the most depressing song I've ever heard in my life. And I said, I know, but we'll make it more promising and more hopeful. And my son, who is an arranger and orchestrator in Hollywood, you've heard of Hollywood, yeah. He's also, by the way, for the younger people here, he's the music supervisor for Activision Games. So he just came out with Tony Hawk, and he did Guitar Hero, and he did all these other things. Anyway, I called him up and I said, Eric, I'm going to send you this song, and I want you to listen to it. It's going to be for my new trick about honoring our relatives. So I send him the song, and he calls me back right away. And he says, Dad, yeah, that's the most depressing song I've ever heard in my life. And I said, I know, but you're going to make it more hopeful and more promising. And we did what you're supposed to do. We spoke for an hour about it. And he said, what kind of emotion do you want to get out of it? Do you want it light? Do you want it haunting? Do you want it this? Oh, well, we'll add violins. We spoke for an hour just on the song. And he said, okay, let me work on it, and I'll send you a quick track for you to rehearse with afterwards. So he sends it back, and I said, perfect, that's exactly what I need. And that inspired me to come up with the rest of the routine. I wrote a 7-page script on just the introduction, whittled it down to 4 paragraphs, which is the beginning. 3 years in the making, this thing was. 3 years to put all this together. And every time it was getting better and better. He hired a singer, and the musicians never saw each other. He did all the tracks separately. And the singer, if you've heard of Postmodern Jukebox, her name is Aubrey Logan. She's a jazz singer, and she plays a trombone. You've seen her in those. And she was perfect for the part. She did it in 1 take. And she said, how was that? Should I do it again? And he said, I don't know how to direct you anymore. You want to do a second take just in case? And she did a second take, and it was exactly like the first. And we had the song. So now my son sends me the song, and I am inspired like crazy, because that is a haunting song, the way he did it. We even play the song on the way out of the parlor, and it remains in people's heads. And the after effect that I know that it worked is people linger at the parlor as they're leaving to tell me about their relatives. So I have touched their emotion tremendously. So that's the creation of You're There. And the only reason I showed you the rehearsal was to talk about the Aristotle triangle. So any comments or questions you'd like to ask me before I move on?
Yeah, about ethos.
Yeah.
One of the things about ethos is, it's also dealing with the spirit of the culture and the ideas and the customs of people. And
Sure.
I think, to me, the ethos is the deepest structure that everybody struggles with, because it's about building rapport. Because the rapport is going to help you get to that final pathos. And if you don't have that rapport, you can have a logical trick, something's gone, now it's back, but if it doesn't have that rapport or that lock-in with an individual, it's not as much as credibility, but it's about connection.
That's right.
That allows the pathos at the end, because then that connection allows the emotion. Because if you're not connected, no one will release that emotion.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I recommend, did you study this also in college?
We actually studied this in nursing school.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh, Oh,
relative to patients. Yeah.
Yeah, nursing school, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a big secret, everybody, that isn't a secret. And I highly recommend that you Google Aristotle Triangle and read as much as you can, and you will rethink everything you're doing in your act. True, Sean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even in your life, when you're giving a presentation or trying to explain something to somebody, yeah, unless you make that first connection of, and I call it credibility, you're not gonna go further. And that's why that TV show, that magic show, drives me insane. You all know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But I love the fact that there are so many magicians on TV. Okay, we're almost there. Let's go back to this. All right. So there you go. I think I've talked to, I mean, I could talk for hours on it, give more demonstrations and things, but I hope I've sparked your interest in doing that. Okay. So these are the kind of things that that my company makes. Just wanted to tell you about it. The Samuel Wolf Code we didn't do tonight, but if you want a perfect two-person code act that you can learn in 10 minutes, and do serial numbers off of bills, playing cards, all sorts of things, that's the Samuel Wolf Code. If any of you have it, you can recommend it for me because I know you're going to do it. If you want to see it performed in a very funny way, I did it to the extreme. I did the code. I was doing a lecture at the Magic Circle, and my daughter was home in Rhode Island, and through Skype, it was the very first Skype magic trick. Through Skype, we did the two-person code with a 20-pound note in the audience, and it's very funny watching it. So if you go to YouTube and put Bruce Kalver Skype, you'll find it there, okay? The posters are available. When you get a poster, you get a baseball card of the poster, collectible. The smoke gimmicks, we have a few. Kinetic Crank. I am not here to do a dealer demo, but I just wanted to bring these up to you because people always ask me about them. Here's the great thing. 2 months ago, 9 weeks ago, I became a grandfather for the very first time. My son, Eric, the music guy, had a beautiful daughter named Ellie, like in Up, Ellie. And so I'm so excited about my granddaughter that for you guys, if you put in the coupon code Ellie10, you'll get 10% off your entire order. And this expires on September 30th. You have until September 30th. Not October 1st, not October 2nd. September 30th is when it expires. At the end of, if you order something from brucekalver.com and you go to the, the section there that sells the stuff, and at the end, if you put in the code ELLIE10, E-L-L-I-E 10, I would not be so blatant as to put a picture of my granddaughter up here for you all to see. But she's as shocked as I am that they were even putting a thing on there. There's Ellie yesterday. That's what she looks like yesterday. I want you to know that my son, because he's in Hollywood, when the baby was born, we never got to see the baby. I mean, we got to see her, but we never got to hold her and do that. So my son decided with his wife 2 weeks ago to drive across country in his car so that we could see the baby. And so he's here in Rhode Island for the week. And we got to see the baby yesterday. So there you go. Now, beautiful, just all around beautiful. We raised him well. So if you want the free lecture notes, these are not pages and pages of notes. These are actual lecture notes, which means they're a one-sheet piece of paper with bulleted points of the stuff I talked about today, okay? Just to remind you of things. It's not a book of all the tricks that I did today. But if you go to brucekalver.com and you go to the free stuff area, you'll see the free lecture notes. They look like that. It's just a one sheet, and it has the bulleted points. And on the back is the grid, an empty grid for you to remind you about the grid, okay? In order to open, and once you download these notes, you can download them for free in the free stuff area. Once you download them, you will need a password to open them. And the password to open them is LE10, okay? Easy to remember, right? You'll remember my granddaughter. LE10 to unlock the lecture notes. And that's what they are. They're free. They're just as I said, bulleted points. So you would so you'll remember the stuff in there. The photophonia, the crank, the playing cards, how to mark them, all that stuff is in there. So let me go back to here. Stop share. Wow, we didn't have many glitches tonight, did we, with that? So now, if you have any comments or questions, I'm here to answer them for you. I hope that was all helpful to you. I hope you got something out of it. And I'm so glad you came up to see me.
Very enjoyable, Bruce. Do you still perform, or is there a video online of you doing the ring on the brandy glass?
Funny, at every lecture somebody asks me that. I still perform. I'm a castle performer, like all of you, and I still perform, not birthday parties anymore, but it's hard to perform now, isn't it? I am putting together a virtual show to do, what I'm trying to do is put together a virtual show for local theater companies or restaurants that can use the extra money. I say this out to you because you may want to do the same thing. They are suffering as much as we are, as much as balloon artists are, as much as jugglers are. And yeah, and so theater companies, my God, they're going through a lot. So if you could put together a virtual magic show and have them sell the tickets and work with them on the money for it, you know, split it up. You could have 25 people, 50 people at a time and put on a virtual magic show, like I was telling you before. And that's what I'm working on right now to do. The ring on Brandy Snifter has gotten so much comment because here's what I'll tell you about it. It's a trick that we put out 10 years ago, 11. So here's the backstory of the ring on Brandy Snifter. That's a premise that other people have done, right? Pete Byro had a version that involved a very complicated table, right? And hiding someone behind the table and all this stuff. One night, Hocus Pocus Magic in Fresno would always sell our stuff. He loved our stuff. And he would call me once a week and say, what do you got that's new? What do you got I can sell? What do you got that's new? And one day he called me and he said, what do you got that's new? And I said, you know, Paul, I had a dream about a trick last night. And he said, what is it? And I said, well, it's a version of the ring on Brandy Snifter. And it was pretty cool when I came up with it in my dream. And so he goes, how much is it going to sell for? And I go, no. This was a dream, Paul. Every trick works in a dream, you know? I don't even know if this trick's going to work. And he said, well, what is it? So I tell him, he goes, oh, that'll work. I go, no, I'd like to try it on some shows first. And he said, well, what would it sell for if you did it? And I go, I don't know. So we figured, he goes, what do you think, $50? I go, yeah, it's probably what it'll sell for. He says, okay. He says, let me know when you have it ready. So that afternoon he called me and he said, we sold 75 of them already on the website. And I said, Paul, I haven't even done it yet. Don't even know if it's going to work. He said, well, hurry up and get to it. I said, this is a true story, I swear. I said, give me 2 weeks. Let me try it on the shows that I have coming up. And damn it, on the first show, it worked beautifully. And on the second show, it worked even better. And by the second week, I got something on my head. And so he sold a ton of them. And we still sell them. And here's what I'll tell you about it. This is what screws around with it. And it's been ripped off, by the way. It's been ripped off. Not well, though. They made mistakes. But the premise is that a borrowed ring eventually appears on a brandy snifter glass, okay? Whether it's the end of I used it as the end of a Himber ring routine, but it doesn't have to be that. But the great thing about it is that the ring appears on the glass, and the only way to take it off is to put it in a paper bag and smash the glass, and then you can get the ring off. You smash the glass at every performance, yet you can use it again and again. There's no refill glasses. Okay, that's what I'll tell you. I mean, it's all glued together, but it looks pretty good. No. You never have to use a refill on the glass, and you smash it at every performance. But it's called Ring on Brandy Snifter. If you're interested, it's on the website over there. Unfortunately,
I do have one. I have one.
Okay, who said that?
That's Mark Ray.
Okay, Mark, have you used it?
Once.
You have to be brave, but it works.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you. And it's, I wish I could tell you something right now, but I can't. You have to be casual. And if you're casual, you'll have more fun with it. If you worry about it, you're not going to have fun with it. Does that make sense to you, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Like a psychic.
I saw the actual wine glass that Fred Capps did the ring on the wine glass at the library in the Magic Circle.
Yes.
And I guess somebody was underneath the table for that one.
Yeah,
that's what inspired me to get yours.
Yeah. I hope you use it, and if you want to call me, I can give you some tips on it later on. But I mean, you paid for it. I don't want to expose it all here. Although somebody exposed it in one of the magazines, and I called the publisher of the magazine. I said, we're still selling that trick. You are exposing a trick that we put out. Oh, I didn't know. Well, now you know. So don't do that. And yeah, we had a lot of issues about that trick. But those that bought it, that are using it, that are practicing it, that have spoken to me, absolutely love the trick, and it's a staple in their shows. So Ring on Brandy Snifter. I notice now I'm going to look at your chat room here. It does matter what direction you twirl the spiral. If you twirl it one way, your head will shrink. If you twirl it the other way, your head will grow. One thing that a lot of people are not doing is I do it 3 times in my regular show. I do it to myself. I do it to someone in the audience that they said it didn't work for them. And then the 3rd time, I have people in the audience pick partners next to each other, and I have them stare at the spiral and then look at each other. And it'll work there too. So you can either make it grow or shrink, whichever way you want to go. Will the magic be searchable soon on MUM? Believe me, it took us months to do the titles. So we got the titles. That's where we are right now. When more technology comes through, then we'll take it from there. But we at least wanted to do that there. So a lot of people are asking that. We couldn't do searchable by words. It would have been a nightmare right now, but it'll come. What is the physics on how that works? The physics on how the spiral.
Yeah, the hypnosis.
Yeah, the spiral. So the way it works is you have 3 muscles inside 3 major muscles in your eye. You have any optometrists? 3 major muscles in your eye. And when you're staring at it, you're only using 2 of those muscles. And you're focusing on the thing going in. So that when you look away, your 3rd muscle doesn't know what to do. And so it does the opposite of what you've been doing all this time. That's really the science behind it.
Okay, yeah.
So if you see it going in, when you look away, it's going to appear as if it's going out. Your brain determines what your eyes see.
Right.
eyes see it, but your brain determines it. So you're playing with the muscles. And so when you look away, the other muscle is pulling it back. It's the same effect as, remember the old thing of putting your arms together and going in between a doorway and pushing on the doorway? So you,
Yeah.
and then when you step out and they fly on their own, it's the same thing, only with your eyes.
A body equilibrium. It's a physiological equilibrium state.
There we go. There we go. See, everybody has it. They know. Where am I in Rhode Island? Does it matter? No.
I got family there. That's the only reason why I ask, and I'm going there in the summer. So.
What part of Rhode Island are they in?
Berwick.
Warwick, the next town over from me.
Mm-hmm.
Next city over from me. I'm in Cranston.
Oh, okay. All right.
As in Lamont, Cranston. Almost.
That was just a trivia question.
No, I got it. It's okay. In Warwick, I probably know them. No. You never know.
That's true.
There you go. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Or I'm an open book.
Sure. I got a question, Bruce.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the brandy glass here, and always, always the questions come up, and how examinable. Like, I can't. Once the ring is on, I'm assuming I can't hand that to somebody to handle.
I have. All
right. That answers.
I'm braver than most.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's different levels of spectators, right? There's some that are going to be like, oh yeah, that's really on there.
No, because of the way you're performing it.
Okay.
They're not going to go examine.
Right.
Much like, listen, the whole Himba ring routine is a gutsy little thing, right? So this is just, to me, this is just the ending of the rest of the gutsy thing. That's not as gutsy as walking through the audience showing those rings that aren't even their rings. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Crazy. I wrote a book a few years ago, many years ago now, called Himba Ring Magic. And I had a pliers idea, which I used on the cruise ship, which allowed me to switch the rings and store it for later on. And what would happen is I'd switch the ring for the Himba ring, and I'd reach in my pocket to put away the stick that I collected the rings on. And in doing so, I had a pliers with the two ends facing up so that the ring went right on the pliers. So now I go through the whole Himba ring routine. And at the end, when it's time to separate the last two rings, say, I'm having a little trouble, hold on. And I reach inside my pocket and I had the pliers. And of course, when I turn the pliers, the ring would go right into my hand. So I'd say, okay, let's rip. No, I won't rip it apart. And I'd put the pliers down, and now I have the person's original ring. It was a way to make a switch. So that was one of the things in there that I thought was pretty smart and clever to use. So there's a book called Himba Ring Magic. You want to know gutsy stuff, go read that routine. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, you got me. It's 1 a.m. I told you I could do this in my sleep. And I didn't even show you my water bottle. It's my.
That is funny. Thank you so much, Bruce. We really appreciate this.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
That's a great water bottle.
I enjoyed the performance of the.
It's on the notes. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in and seeing it. Those that didn't come, don't tell them anything.